Hey everybody, welcome back to TGB Insider for the month of August. I've decided that from now on, since I assume you guys want to see videos, and this is just kind of a bonus for you patrons, that if I'm in the middle of working on a video, you don't want me to just, that's nearly done, you don't want me to just kind of stop making it and come make the Insider for the month to get out on the dot. So, if I'm working on something, I'll finish that video up, and then you'll get the Insider, which is what I'm doing now. So let's dive into it. So to start off with, I've been playing a bit of Dark Souls 3. Now, I used to be pretty into Souls back in the days of Dark Souls 1, but I kind of fell off the train. I really enjoyed Demon Souls, but like for a lot of people, Dark Souls 2 let me down. And that was exactly the point that, like, YouTube Souls videos started becoming like a really big deal. And would have probably helped me if I'd kind of stuck around and talked about the series more, but alas, I just wasn't feeling it. And when Bloodborne came out, I didn't get into it either, as much as I can appreciate the cool looking art, the cool world design. To me, it kind of felt like playing a kind of shallow hack and slash in a bad performing engine. Like, it just didn't run very well on PS4. And the game had really sped up since Dark Souls 1, so suddenly you are being asked to do a lot of Twitch movements. And I didn't feel all that good. I wasn't feeling Bloodborne. When the PS5 comes out, and we get the 60 FPS version, I might give that another go. But no, I wasn't really feeling it. But what I really enjoy about Dark Souls 3, straight off the bat, is that it's the first Souls game that I've ever played that has run at 60 FPS 1080p right out of the gate. The first time I played it was on PC, the initial release version, and I didn't have to wait for the game to come out better later, as was the case with Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. And I put it off because I just kind of didn't care in the original release. I was kind of like, this franchise has just kind of like lost my interest, but I was surprisingly really enjoying Dark Souls 3. And I think I put it down to, other than the fact that it runs really well and looks really nice, is that it's kind of a fun continuation of that first game. We didn't really get a sequel with Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 like felt really bland. It almost felt like somebody else had wanted to make a game just like Dark Souls, but wanted to rip it off in a really cheap, ugly way without taking enough from it to be sued. Except it actually was Dark Souls 2. It wasn't like, Evil Buki Souls, the Asylum version. It was really Dark Souls 2, but it didn't feel like it at all. Dark Souls 3 feels like a real Dark Souls 2, it continues the story from the first game. There's a lot of cool throwbacks to the first game. Overall, I was just really enjoying soaking it up, noticing all the references, enjoying all the cool new stuff that was there. Dark Souls 2 threw like a boss at you every like few minutes, and most of them were just dudes in armor. Here they're much more considered with the boss fights. They're much more memorable as a result. They don't come at you in such quick succession. I haven't actually beaten the game yet though. I've made it to the part where, the final level of the game where you can walk up to face the final boss. But I want to beat all the DLCs first before I go to the final boss. So at the moment I'm off doing those, but they are super hard. I'm fighting a very hard fight in the Ashes of Ariandel, something like that, DLC. I think it's the final one in the DLC, and you guys probably all know what I'm talking about if you've played that DLC. It's a tough fight. I need to beat it, and then I can continue and beat Dark Souls 3. Maybe one day I'll elaborate a bit on my feelings towards the Souls series as in its entirety. I feel like I need to go back to the older games and really but then at the same time, it's like so many people do Souls analysis videos and Souls sort of design videos. It's like I need to think of something new to bring to the table. There's not really that much point in doing it. But yeah, anyway, moving on from that. I also, after doing the Metal Gear Solid 4 video, I actually found a way, I didn't find a way, other people found a way, to play Metal Gear Online 2 again, which was the online multiplayer feature that unfortunately, out of the box, you can't play anymore on Metal Gear Solid 4. Konami took it down for whatever reason. I guess there wasn't enough people playing for their liking, but anyway, you just need to download some files to access the content of the game that is on the disc that is technically rightfully yours, and get it up and running again. And it's a blast. I haven't actually played it in a few weeks, so the circumstances might have changed. It might not be working now, but yeah, I've been playing Metal Gear Online 2 again, and it's a blast. It's not the most fine-tuned multiplayer mode. The performance can be really, really bad at times, but it's such a creative and fun type of multiplayer mode with so much personality. It feels like what a Metal Gear Online multiplayer should be like. To be fair, I didn't play Metal Gear Online 1 on MGS3, so I don't really know much about that. But here, there's so many like little nuances and jokey gags that you might see in a single player mode in a Metal Gear Solid game applied to the multiplayer, and it's what makes it so much fun. And you know, not just a cool game to play competitively, but also just to have a mess around with and laugh at. And that's kind of why I jumped into this multiplayer mode again. Kind of want to talk about it in a video at some point. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that, but I need to get into it and play a lot more matches before I do that. If it still lasts. If the server stays up, the fan-made server, so. But yeah, I've been playing a bit of that. It's surreal. It's surreal to play because you get to use all these old unlockable skins. Not even skins. You get to play as characters like Raiden and Vamp in the multiplayer with their own special moves. It's really cool. It's such a shame that Konami took this down and you have to jump through so many hoops now to access it. But it's a blast from the past and a reminder of just, you know, how cool MGS4 was on every level. So, yeah, had a good time doing that. What else? I just beat Uncharted The Lost Legacy, the new Uncharted game. I feel kind of confident calling it the next Uncharted game because it's a standalone thing. Pretty substantial package, you know? It doesn't feel like just a little couple of DLC missions. It's like a full kind of adventure with two protagonists that we haven't played as in the single-player series before. And, you know, I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed Uncharted 4 a lot, despite its shortcomings, and I enjoyed this game a lot despite its shortcomings, and I kind of want to talk about it in a video, because they go some interesting places with the design in this game, and I think I am going to make this video, so I'm not going to talk much about it here. They do some interesting things with the Uncharted formula in this game, some interesting stuff that they kind of played around with in 4, and here they really do something neat with, so I might talk about that. As for the concept of this sort of like mini release though, I really enjoy it, I really like it. I think it's cool that they can take the polish of a game like Uncharted 4, use that engine, and in a year release a brand new story with some new ideas, some cool new concepts, and kind of expand on the world without necessarily touching upon Nathan Drake and his kind of arc, which has sort of been finished now. I was kind of warming up to this duo more than Nathan Drake by the end of it, in fact. You know, it was really refreshing to play as these two, well, they're not new characters. Obviously, they've been in prior games, but this new dynamic that we haven't seen before, these two on their own, having an adventure together, was really cool. And there was some good funny lines in there, some good stuff. I remember complaining in Uncharted 4 that there was no way to turn off motion blur. I believe they patched that into Uncharted 4 like a month after I did my review. But here, of course, you can turn off motion blur from the start, and thank God, because now I can actually see what's going on when I move the camera. Obviously, by default, they have it set to the maximum setting, and that's because they don't want you to be able to notice how sort of clunky the game looks at 30 frames per second, which, you know, it does. When the motion blur is turned off, you can really tell the game's got a low frame rate. But, you know, I'd rather be able to see what I'm doing than have motion blur turned on just so I can sort of like notice the low frame rate a tiny bit less, you know. Obviously I'm going to turn down that motion blur. Another cool thing the game included was all the multiplayer stuff from Uncharted 4. This is kind of like Halo 3 ODST, boys, basically. I didn't get to play the online multiplayer for Uncharted 4 that much when it came out, so playing it now in Lost Legacy is a lot of fun. It's pretty cool. It's the kind of multiplayer mode I really enjoy, where they throw caution to the wind a little bit and, you know, you're swinging around, shooting people, you get kind of crazy abilities, like summoning dark forces, you know, and stuff as like power-ups and perks. It's a good time. It's fun. It's fun to swing around Indiana Jones style, shooting people, even if it's just a regular deathmatch and you're not involved in some of the more complex sort of capture the flag stuff. Also, the multiplayer runs at 60 frames per second, and it looks really good. I wonder what Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy single player would be like if they just toned the graphical fidelity down to Uncharted 4's multiplayer, which looks really good, to have the 60 frames. Or if that could have been an option. Or if there'd been some kind of PC graphics setting where they could have dropped the resolution or the graphical detail in exchange for frame rate. Would have been cool to see. I know there are a few games who do that, you know. Neo did it. So it's time, guys. It's time to start including these options. Especially if you're going to redesign consoles like 3 times to accommodate new resolutions. I can't deal with it anymore. So yeah, that's kind of what I've had time to play in between making the Vanquish and the Ratchet videos. For Vanquish, of course, I played through Vanquish. Like, that's what I did. And for Ratchet, I already had all the Ratchet 1 footage from making previous videos. So I didn't have to record that again, but I did play through all of Ratchet 3 and all of Ratchet 2 again in about a couple of days. for that video. So, so that was a bit time consuming. You never know what kind of footage you're going to need, even though Ratchet 2 isn't the focus of the video. You might need something from the start of the game, you might need something from the end of the game. So you might as well just play through the whole game and record it all to have it there in case you need it again, which is what I did. Okay, on to the news. Now, obviously, I'm not, I cover news that interests me. So sometimes I do these and there isn't really something I want to talk about, which is fair enough. But there's been a couple of stories, a couple of announcements in the last month that I think I could elaborate on and talk about a bit, so let's dive into those. First off, I want to talk about the announcement of Yakuza Kiwami 2. Like a Dragon Kiwami 2, Ryu Gagatoku Kiwami 2, yeah, you get the picture. One of my favorite games in the Yakuza series is Yakuza 2. I've talked about the series off and on again on my channel, did a video on Zero, but one of my favorite titles in the series is definitely Yakuza 2. It came out at the tail end of that generation, and I think it gets overlooked a lot by more mainstream outlets as one of the classics of that system. Obviously, I played it a little late. It kind of came out under the radar here, but that is a true classic game by any stretch of the imagination. It's a great game. Maybe one day I'll make a video about it, but I'll just say now, highly recommended. If you live in America, they reprinted the game, so I think you can get it on Amazon pretty easily. If you live in Europe, it's become weirdly kind of rare. So since they didn't release the HD collection for 2 that they made in Japan here, I don't think anyone's going to begrudge you if you decide to emulate it. They're not providing you a means to buy it in Europe. So there you go. Great game. Now there's a remake coming out, and I don't know about you guys, but these remakes are getting kind of tiring at this point. Like, seems like there's one for every single game of the last 10 years now coming out. It's getting a bit much. I don't know about you. I used to be way more charitable towards them before they just started coming out and getting weirder and jankier. Doesn't look that great to me so far. The faces are kind of weird. They've changed a bunch of faces. The original game had a really timeless art style. It still looks really good. I don't think it really necessitates an upgrade. And they're also going to be using the Yakuza 6 engine, which probably entails the Yakuza 6 combat system, which is, from what I've played of the demo of Yakuza 6, haven't played the full game yet, is completely sort of removed from the combat of previous games. In terms of, like, the design, it's a different kind of combat system. So you're fundamentally making a different game at that point. It's the same kind of argument I think I'd have towards something like the Final Fantasy VII remake. It's like, are you really remaking Final Fantasy VII if you've changed the combat system, the core of the game? You're making a different game, basically. At the end of the day, remove the characters and the story in the world, it's a different game. And that's kind of what they're doing here. And it's a bit unfortunate to see people being so dismissive of the original. Just kind of assuming, oh, well, this is the same thing, I can just play this now, when it really isn't going to be the same thing, might not be as good, and the fact that this original classic already exists in English, it's out there, you can get it. It's a bit saddening that it's just kind of being chucked in the bin. To be honest, like, there's no telling when Kiwami 2 is going to come out in English. I think you have plenty of time, even if the game costs a little to get a hold of. You've got plenty of time to get hold of that game and play it before this game comes out in English. I'm also kind of skeptical about it because of Kiwami 1, which was just kind of a reskin of 0 in the Yakuza 1 story. Like, why play these kind of cheap, quickly made... Because keep in mind, they're making another Yakuza game after this. Why play these kind of cheaply made new games when the classic is out there? It kind of feels like you're doing a disservice to yourself if you kind of skip over the original games. To a lot of people who are just dead set on playing Kiwami 2, they see Kiwami 2 as Yakuza 2. But obviously, someone like me who's played Yakuza 2, I don't see Kiwami 2 as Yakuza 2, I see it as Kiwami 2. I think that's a point Hyperbit Hero brought up to me, in fact, when we were talking about this. It's annoying to see the quality of the original game be dismissed. I don't base the quality of games on when they came out or how new they look. I base their value off their quality, and Yakuza 2 still has a lot of quality. It's worthy of the price. It's worthy at least of the $40 you can get it for on American Amazon, for example. And people are kind of acting insecure, kind of wanting people to shut up and not criticize these Yakuza games if they don't look that great, because there's this fear they won't get localized. And I'm pretty sure it's going to get localized, because they're localizing all of them. 0 did well from what I know, but it's not a critic's job to be blind to the fact that these products aren't that great to publicize the series. And if you want to publicize the series, I'm way more interested in seeing something like Ishin or Kenzan get a Western release than Yakuza 2 Kiwami, because Yakuza 2 is already in English. We don't have games like Ishin and Kenzan. Let's put it this way, there are very few people who would tell you to play Twin Snakes over the original Metal Gear Solid, right? Because everyone knows it's kind of this janky, weird reinterpretation. And everyone knows this because everyone's played Metal Gear Solid, and everyone knows it's a classic. But to a lot of people, Yakuza 2 is this weird sort of mystery game that they just, it's like some old PS2 game. Because it's not a classic in their minds, because it isn't a classic in the public consensus, they don't view Yakuza 2 as this great title that I don't think should just be slapped onto Yakuza 6's engine to make some extra money, you know? Same with Twin Snakes. But as someone who did play Yakuza 2, I do view Yakuza 2 like that, and therefore I have high standards if they're gonna re-release it. And I feel that people are doing themselves a disservice by just dismissing the old game. I'm not saying don't play Kiwami 2, but I encourage everyone to check out the original Yakuza 2 because it's a great game, and not to overlook it just for this game. You know, what if Kiwami 2 is a real huge screw-up? Like, it screws up important moments, important aspects of Yakuza 2. I mean, it's already probably going to change the whole combat system, so that's kind of already part of it. Already. Like, that's the view a lot of people will have of Yakuza 2 if they've only played Kiwami 2. You know, that's the legacy that game kind of has in the West. Even though it's already been released and people have the opportunity to play it. So, as a game critic, I guess, as the person you follow to get video game opinions on, my recommendation is buy Yakuza 2. If it's really expensive, just save up for it. You'll probably be able to afford it. $1 a day, like, you'll probably still be able to afford it way before this Kiwami 2 gets localized, you know? But anyway, maybe I'll script something out and talk about that in more detail at some point when we see more of the game. Next bit of news is that we got a trailer for No More Heroes Travis Strikes Back, or Travis Strikes Back No More Heroes, the third No More Heroes game, or it kind of is. Some interesting details released about this game. We got the first trailer. It's a pre-rendered trailer, sort of like a concept trailer. Really not what I was expecting. Goichi Suda, the director of the original game, hasn't directed a game in like 10 years. I think he did like Fatal Frame 4 on the Wii, and that didn't come out outside of Japan. And he's directing again this game. And when I heard he was, I didn't expect they were going to announce it's this weird midquel game, this kind of Kingdom Hearts Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles thing where they go into different indie game worlds. Apparently that's what the game is about. Travis gets locked in a fight with Badman, Bad Girl's father from the original game, and they both get sucked into video games. And they have to fight in them to prove who's the best, to kill each other, I suppose. And there's going to be games like Hotline Miami and references to Shovel Knight, and even Danganronpa has been teased. Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about this. I was kind of hoping with Suda returning to direct, this would mean the return of kind of classic, less goofy Suda, still perturbed, still, comical on a lot of levels, but kind of, the sort of grittiness we've seen in No More Heroes 1 and Killer 7 and Silver Case. Probably naive of me to think that, mind you. But it seems that with this wacky setup, we are definitely getting a game more in line with No More Heroes 2 than No More Heroes 1. And that's a bit disappointing for me, who thought that No More Heroes 2 kind of moved away from what made No More Heroes 1 special, which was this really eerie kind of mesh of a psychotic, gritty world with the video game tropes, towards what 2 became, which was kind of more of this wacky, violent anime thing. So it's kind of disappointing that he's not going for the No More Heroes 1 style, but, I haven't lost hope entirely in this being a good game. The fact that Suda's directing is one of the main reasons why I'm still going to be interested. Even though the premise is, it's yet to be seen what they're going to do with this. Apparently it's still a 3D hack and slash game, so that's, it's going to have the gameplay of the past No More Heroes games, but, let's not pretend No More Heroes is some masterpiece hack and slash, A lot of it does have to do with the world and the characters and, what you're doing in the game that makes it so much fun. Unless Suda's like, he's been playing all the hack and slashes for 10 years to make this the greatest hack and slash ever, which fair enough if he does do that. But the premise can't fall flat on its face, is what I'm saying. And something that kind of ties into that ties into the whole, story of the game, is that it looks like we're not getting Robin Atkin Downes back as the voice of Travis. which is really disappointing. A lot of people noticed in the trailer that didn't sound like Robin Atkin Downes. And then Robin Atkin Downes came on Twitter and he was like, nobody even told me, you know, that they made this, and started tweeting at Suda like, hey bro, you know, what's going on here? Why didn't you get me back? A lot of people are speculating it's because a lot of voice actors in the States have gone on strike to get better wages, and Robin might be part of that. Maybe they don't want to pay him as much as he wants, which I think is really skeevy. You know, granted, No More Heroes is a budget game on a lot of levels, but to not even like talk to these people, to not even talk to the voice of Travis. I don't even think No More Heroes has a Japanese dub, by the way. I think this pretty much is Travis. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure at least in the first game, I think they might have added a dub to the PS3 remake. I might be wrong. Whatever, the point is, Robin Atkin Downes is such an intrinsic part of Travis Touchdown, of No More Heroes. I might go as far as to say that without Travis Touchdown as the protagonist, I don't think people would care as much as they do about No More Heroes, because he's such a creative, such a cool, fresh protagonist for this kind of game, this kind of weird combination of a nerd, a geek who wants to live out his kind of the fantasies he sees in his media, and grim reality, the spotlight that's kind of shone on this character. The fact that if you do that, you probably are really messed up and psychotic, and Robin Atkin Downes delivers such a good performance in that regard. Travis is this character who's trying so hard to be cool and kind of imitate, you know, the characters in the media he consumes, but that's all tinged with this psychotic energy, this kind of feeling of ecstasy he gets when he kills and he's on the job, and it really comes out in Robin's performance, how he delivers each line. It's like, oh, it's really good. And to have him replaced, you know, this new guy's probably good, he's probably a fine, talented actor, but just from the trailer, he's trying to go for the same kind of affectation, and he doesn't really reach it. Sounds way more like sort of a generic, you know, crazy anime protagonist, as opposed to, you know, Travis. You know, you don't hear a character speak like Travis in most things. That voice is so memorable and part of the character. And the fact that they wouldn't pony up a little bit more cash to get Robin, or at least to have a conversation with him, that's really disappointing. And that's a bit skeevy, to be honest. Suda51, he's the kind of guy who's inspired by movies and TV and stuff, and, you know, usually I see that as a negative when it comes to game design on a lot of levels, but that should at least give him the sense, right, that people care about who's acting in his game, you know? I mean, I don't know if it's really down to him, or if he's even, like, that involved with the voices and all that. Maybe he isn't, but on some level, he's got to know that people are going to be, you know, annoyed by this. Especially as a niche franchise, you know, people who are into kind of underground series, they care about these little details. They notice this stuff, and it's a big part of why we love these games. So to see that he's not back, it's another strike against it. You know, the premise is still, I don't know, it could be good. I like the look of the sort of caravan trailer thing he's in. Looks kind of comfy. I could kind of enjoy a game where you go into the video game and you get collectibles and then you decorate your, like, your cozy trailer with. That could be good. I guess we still have to wait and see where this goes. But anyway. This month we've got Tokyo Game Show happening, which I'm sure will give me something to talk about in next month's edition. So very much looking forward to that. These are just a few things I guess you guys probably would want me to talk about, because it's kind of part of my video repertoire. Speaking of remakes, I've got Metroid 2 to play this month, so yeah, I am just inundated with remakes. I don't even know how to react most times. They're just coming at me so fast. I'm like, but whatever, guys. Thanks for your patronage as usual. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys next month. Let me know your thoughts in the Patreon comments.